We're going to spend most of our time today talking about dilutive funding, but before we do that, I understand there's some more non-dilutive funding that we can talk about, and since we all love non-dilutive funding, why don't we get the panel to tell us a little bit more if there's some other options for non-dilutive funding in the landscape.
Sure. I want to kick it off, John. Yeah, well, it's a pleasure to be here and represent the North Carolina Biotechnology Center. And there are handouts on the table, so things I'm going to reference, obviously feel free to take those. But there are several sources we look at. Obviously, we do have many grants that we obviously have as part of our portfolio. But another portfolio that we offer is a loan program. When we have various loans from company inception loans for really early startup phases. They go up to $50,000. In a loan format, and the terms are typically a 3-year turnaround. But there's also a couple of other loan programs, strategic research loan, which is up to $250,000, and then a strategic growth loan, which is up to $500,000. So these are what I'll call the funding type of programs. And then in addition to that, though, David, we also offer a baton program, and baton program may be where we work with Marty or Carlisle and their groups to make sure that an early phase company who may not have the sources like an accountant or an attorney or someone in the finance area or things of that nature. There's over 400 people that we network through across North Carolina that can offer those services. Some cases where someone who may be more technical may need a CEO role. There's retired CEOs out there who are still engaged. We utilize those folks in this baton network as well. So that's a really neat program that obviously is another source, and obviously the terms of that can be worked out between the individuals. So that's just a few examples.
Who would qualify for those other strategic loan programs?
Yeah, pretty much anyone early phase that has a presence in North Carolina and a significant presence in North Carolina. Really looking at those that early stage funding gap. So as long as you've got that presence, and obviously there's other criteria that work around that. Well, I know we'll get into the discussions around the specifications of what allows you to become responsible for those things, but that's pretty much the criteria we're looking at.
Thanks, Mark. Mm-hmm. John, do you have anything to add there?
Well, sure. I'll add the organization that I work for, which is NC IDEA. And one of the things I always like to do is figure out how good a job we're doing marketing across the state. Who's heard of the NC IDEA grant program? So we're doing a horrible job of marketing. So NC IDEA is a private, even though it's got NC in the name, it is a private, not-for-profit, whose mission is economic development in the state of North Carolina by creating winning startups. And the way that we do that is with a grant program where twice a year we have a grant competition. We typically get about 100 to 150 applicants, and we award 5 grants every 6 months of up to $50,000. It has to be a technology-based company. Most of our applicants are software, hardware, a few medical devices. You can kind of get over into a little bit of biotech stuff, but we don't do drug discovery and things like that. That's what these guys are all about. Mm-hmm. So we are really focused on information technology kinds of companies. These grants are to help you, as the name would imply, get from an idea to the point where you can raise equity funding. So the idea is you would take this $50K, maybe finish a prototype, maybe get some market research done, maybe build an MVP, and get to the point where you can raise equity funding. And it is non-dilutive. It is a grant. The only requirement is that for 2 years after the grant, you maintain a significant presence in the state of North Carolina, because after all, that's what we're trying to do. One other program, and none of us know exactly what the status of it is, there's a program called the NC Innovation Grant that for the last 2 years has awarded grants of up to $25,000 and the loan, I believe, of $100,000. I went to their website and they didn't have a deadline of the next cycle, so I'm not positive it's still active. And don't confuse that with the NC Innovation Fund that the Treasurer has started with some state money. It's the NC Innovation Grant. But those are the 2 things that I wanted to highlight.
Thank you.